Hey, Matt.
Howdy.
Welcome to Wall Talk.
Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you.
It's awesome.
Excited for this conversation.
It's gonna be so good.
So good. Okay, what is your and we've talked about this before, but like what is your perception of how we met? And
Talked about this so much.
I know,
What
but
is your
I want to
perception?
hear it
Because we have
all
a
over
different
again.
perception. Yeah, I can say undoubtedly that we met at a Swan event. And I remember you were talking actually to Blake. So I walked over, Blake introduced me to
Yeah.
you, and we started talking. I have no idea how it came up, but you asked me about my
Yeah.
sign.
That's all you
And
care about.
well, it's what happened. It's what happened. And I will say too, I feel like I remember it pretty vividly.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get to it at the
Yeah.
end. I'm not going to beat my punchline.
Okay. Okay.
The punchline isn't what you expected.
Okay, okay.
So I tell you what my sign is. I'm a Libra. You have a visceral
Yeah.
reaction. I'm like, okay, we're never going to have a conversation ever
Right.
again. So
Here we are.
after you have your visceral reaction, you say, okay, you're a Libra. Are you creative? And I impulsively blurt out, no. And that was the first time in a long time I actually sat down and thought about that question because I had been in wealth management for 6 or 7 years at that point, working at a really large firm. And I had lost touch with my creativity. Granted, I had a bad definition of what creative meant.
Why did you have a bad experience that led to you having a bad definition, or you just
No,
push it down a little?
I think there's a combination of things. I think on the topic of creativity, I used to think of creative as solely being art, what we think of as like traditional
Yeah.
art. So painting, drawing, ceramics, all things that I used to do. And I had moved into this field of numbers and finance. And I admit a very large entity that had a lot of authority over my own ability to actually direct what I was advising on and talking about, etc. So combination of where I was and not seeing an ability to be creative within it, and there being this distance from creativity and what I thought of creativity, I just no longer associated myself with being creative. But when you asked me that question, I actually sat back and I was like, well, I guess I do write a lot and I do write speeches and I'm creating this Bitcoin passion project. And I was like, oh shit, I'm creative.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful for me, like right place, right time. And I have had a number of moments like that where it's interesting because you sit back and reflect like how impactful is that? Like just a little realization, and I would say hugely. It's just like there's a difference between being accidentally creative and then intentionally creative, and I think that the two divided that day.
So what you're saying is I changed your life.
Yeah. I've
No,
I've
I'm kidding.
I've talked about it in other podcasts before, like, "Yeah, you did." So, thank you.
Well, I think what you're saying about right place, right time is that you were probably thinking about these things in the back of your mind, but like when someone else calls it out or, validates something that you've been thinking about, you're like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't all just in my head and maybe I should lean into this. So, okay, so the creative conversation happened and then what else?
That was the most memorable part of it for me. We obviously had a further conversation at that point, and then I feel like though it was like, "Okay, cool," like, we met, and then we saw each other again at
But
Pacific
I didn't see
Bitcoin
for a
events.
year after that, I think.
Year, but it was a while. We ran into each other at Pacific Bitcoin. I think I was talking to someone else that you knew when we, like, ran into each other. I can't remember exactly who it was, and that's when it kinda just
Yeah.
we actually started to, yeah, really be friends, yeah.
After you came to the realization that creativity is something you should focus on, what happened from there?
I guess I would first say, I don't know if it was I would call it something that I should focus on rather than after I realized that it was something that I could focus on, because before that, I just didn't associate with it, and I think that that limited me from actually being creative and realizing that there's a whole depth to creativity that is just whatever you want it to be equals creative. It's just putting something new into the world. And at that point, I believe I'd already been creating on social media. I'm not 100% sure if I had or not, and that's actually relevant. But I since really leaned into writing. Writing was a major boon for my speaking. Speaking became ultimately what is now my business. And within the business is just infinite creativity between creating programs for clients or just like uh, this huge lean into education and um, ultimately like how creative you have to be within that because everyone has a different perspective and way that they actually learn. And I don't know, it's one of those things that it compounds and a lot of it comes back down to that day.
I didn't know you write a lot.
I thought you know, looked at my LinkedIn content every once in
Oh.
a while. Well, yeah, it's a combination between LinkedIn and
I
speeches and
separate
storytelling.
social media from, like I thought you meant writing outside of that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I guess why I consider social media to be writing for me is because I literally write whatever the F I want. And it's kind of funny. I was talking to someone else about it today, and they're like, "What's your strategy with social media?" It's like, I tell stories that I want to tell,
Yeah.
and then it seems to work. So I'm gonna keep doing that.
No, you're
And
at it. I feel like you've cracked the code for LinkedIn because
I've had help.
really?
I've had help.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, I would say I've been noodling around with this idea that two of the we talked about what was an impactful moment for me. Two other impactful moments for me were behind a paywall. Getting introduced to now a man who's been a coach of mine for over 2 years, and another someone who I invested in being in his community. Uh, Unfortunately, it was only for a month because he disbanded the community after it.
I'm gonna say something else.
Oh no, he just
Keep.
like it was too much
Okay.
time on his part, and he ultimately put his time into other efforts. But just getting that month of feedback from him helped me just to see things that I couldn't see. And that was huge for me. It's so tricky. And sometimes that's the value of coaching or just like having a conversation with someone who's honest with you. We get it's so funny to look back a year ago and look at my writing, my storytelling, and the moments where I'd sit back and be like, this is fucking.
Just
And I look back now, I'm like, oh, this is so bad. But you can't
yeah.
all it's so hard to see. It's kind of maybe it comes down to this blind illusion that I don't know if we all have. I have, where I think really highly of myself.
No, but that's
So
good.
it gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's nice in the way because it
Yeah.
makes you do crazy things. Makes you do crazy things like venture off and start a business
No.
when you've
But you believe in yourself. You're betting
exactly.
on
But no,
yourself.
that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is like there's that paradox of it where it's like you can't see the things that you would want to see, but you have the delusion to do things that otherwise don't make sense. So there's the benefit of it, but where it becomes impactful is having people that will help you to make that progress. And I would say that was massively helpful for my own writing too, is being able to see that stuff.
I feel like the number one trait in founders, like everyone has to be slightly delusional in order to be successful. Because like who else is gonna believe in you when others aren't, I guess, is the way to think about it. And then you have like someone has to keep you going and it has to be yourself. So but then also like it's nice when people validate what you're doing and then it further feeds into like, okay, I'm not delusional.
It's nice when that support comes in the way of like signing up with you. There's the you're doing the right thing, and then there's the first sale, and then the ongoing sales and the referrals, and you're like, okay, okay, I'm not totally
Yeah.
delusional.
How do you know that your past posts, like when you're looking at your current posts, how do you know those are better than your past posts?
I'll talk to you about some mistakes that I used to make. One, when I would craft, well, there's a couple parts in here. So A, when I used to talk about things, I used to talk about things that anyone could talk about. And what I mean by that is like there's all these cliches out there. One of them that I'm trying to think of his other ones. I love the example, but I remember the first time that I understood the phrase hurt people. And I thought it was just a bunch of BS. And then one day, I called my mom the B word when I was a 17-year-old. And
You've never told me that.
well, yeah,
I mean, I don't know how it
I've
come up.
I've never even written about it.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about writing about it,
Yeah.
and that's why it's on my mind. But that was the first time that I understood the phrase hurt people," because I was just in such a bad place. I was dealing with some stuff I never even talked to my parents about. I eventually did, and I was just a really anxious teen. And what I'm getting at though is what I used to do was I would just write a post that effectively meant hurt people, hurt people. Nowadays, I tell the story of how that happened and make it so that it's only a lesson that I can share. So there's all these things that like are fundamental human truths, but the way that you tell them uniquely is by telling them through story. And I didn't used to do that. So that was one thing. The other thing was that when I would tell stories, I would give infinite context and way more detail than I needed to, rather than, for example, if you're watching a movie, what do? They drop you straight into the action. I don't need to hear about everything that happened before it. I just need to hear everything. I I just need to know everything that leads up into the moment where you came to your realization, nothing else. And I had way too broad of a filter. Those are two things. I would talk generically. I wouldn't tell like the stories I would tell would be honest and open. They wouldn't. The filter wasn't narrow enough, and I would pack way too many lessons into one idea. So it's really there's one thing you get to get across, one point. And I used to try to get three across, and then if you get three across, you get none across. There's no one specific thing. I think the bigger thing I'm trying to get across is to help people learn about themselves through me learning about myself. And what I've also, I guess, and this is maybe a fourth point to my other point is to show rather than tell, to allow people to come to their own conclusions rather than trying to put a nice bow on it and give them to them. So that's pretty much it. I would say I write very selfishly in that I I tell these stories so that I can tell them again, and I just so happen to post them on social media, and I hope that someone takes something away from them. That was the only reason that I still write on social media because for the longest time I got zero engagement. There was no one really like there were people that were supporting me and that were showing up for me, but I stuck around because I saw what it did for me in conversation. When I wrote about something, it was easier for me to access, easier for me to bring up. Um, so I write very selfishly in that intent. I'm happy that it has translated into business and all of that, but the reason ultimately is I like sharing stories. I like learning about myself, and I'm happy that people also learn through that too.
Also formula to how you use LinkedIn. Not you specifically, but anybody. Like in order to be kind of successful in there, there's a certain formula. I haven't specifically cracked it, but I feel like you have. And so, yeah. Well, you're very supportive to other people.
That's it. I would say other than getting better at writing,
Like you're
it's
very interactive.
that's the other thing. It's a reciprocity platform.
Well, I think you've built relationships by doing it in it. Like initially that was a strategy, but now it feels like more organic. I support these people. I know these people. I want to actually engage with their posts. But that's what I'm saying. There is a formula to it initially.
Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom, talks about toxic fuel and how sometimes the what gets us started isn't what keeps us going. I have been weightlifting since I was 8 years old, and the reason that I kept up with it was because I thought it would give me girls.
A lot of men think that way.
But it is really funny. It got me a lot of confidence from guys.
Not exactly the target audience, but
No, but at the same time, I'm so happy that I got started for whatever reason I got started because it helped me to learn this discipline that I wouldn't have otherwise learned. I mean, as an 8-year-old, when you start doing something that takes 5 to 10 years to see real legitimate progress, then that translates to other things. And I would say it's in large part what brought me into Bitcoin. But does it matter that why I started was because of the ego side of it, or if I'm still around for the right side of it? And I think that translates to what we were talking about earlier is I started commenting on people's stuff because I wanted them to comment on my stuff. But now it's become so cool because now I have all these new relationships and people, and I feel this certain sense of connection that I otherwise wouldn't as a solopreneur.
if you can give someone one piece of advice that's struggling with their content, doesn't really have a ton of direction, but really wants to start telling their story, like what advice would you give them?
First things first is just do it. It's cliche because everyone will say that, but it's the truth. More than anything, if the struggle is to actually just begin, it's beginning. Not getting too caught up on what it is. It could be anything. The first post that I drafted and wrote was like, I wrote it like I was writing a newspaper article. The most important habit I implemented in 2022. So exciting. I heard someone say that embarrassment is the cost of entry. You're gonna suck. You're gonna look back and be like, "What was I doing?" Um, Literally post anything and figure it out from there. Yeah, I don't want to say anything more than that because the reality is then it becomes overcomplicated.
I want to talk about how being first, like being in a relationship, getting engaged, then getting married, like how those stages have contributed to your success and who you are as a person.
I would say it's not, I mean, each part, like dating to engage to married, definitely has different something that it brings to the table. It's commitment, and even though it's a social construct, that means something. I used to keep this quote on the back of my phone, and now it's a picture of my son. But it was on my phone for 3 years. By making and keeping promises to ourselves and others, little by little, our honor becomes greater than our moods. Stephen Covey, and he is the one who wrote the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. He's like a self help guy from before our time, but his books have kind of stuck around. And what I'm getting at though is we so much of what we do is based on our word. And it's interesting because like dating is just based off your word, engagement is just based off your word. And marriage brings it up to another notch when you formalize it. Again, another human social construct, but like there is commitment that's involved in that. That's important. I think that there's something to be said about just making those commitments and what it says about you as a person. But I would say more than anything, though, how has Taylor shaped me across the journey? And it's been very interesting becoming an entrepreneur. There were some people who I didn't expect that wouldn't support me along the way.
Oh, you're saying there's people that in your
That
life
didn't
they
support a
oh,
decision.
interesting.
I think Taylor's most redeeming trait is that she believes in me more than I believe in myself. There have been a multitude of occasions where like I don't know if I would have done these crazy things had it not been not just for her support, but her like, yeah, no shit.
Obviously, yeah.
When there was a point I was at Merrill and I was really upset. I was really upset because I couldn't put my 401k into Bitcoin. And I had this crazy idea. I was like, I'm gonna take a maximum 401k loan. I'm gonna pump it into Bitcoin. And I was like, that's kind of a crazy idea. I remember being on a walk with Taylor. I was like, babe, so I have this idea. You know that Bitcoin thing that just went down a lot? I want to put a lot of money into it.
This is the best time to do it. Don't worry. I promise you.
And she's like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm gonna go do that. And then when I would talk to her about like this idea that I really wanted to start my business, you got to realize that for her, what did that mean? I was in a job that legitimately had a very real path to seven figures. I was going to be handed a book of business that would pay me high hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, wouldn't require the craziest amount of work ever. Like a very well put together business that someone really wanted to give to me. So there was that. There was the fact that we were vacationing a ton, going all these international places. I had a comfortable income. I was able to spend a lot of time at home. I didn't work on the weekends. So all of that was up for grabs. And when I told her that I wanted to start this business that I had just heard about the other day, I knew like it didn't there was a lot that led up to it. And there was a reason why I was a good person to start said business, but she would be giving up a lot. And it was that same response as when I brought up the Bitcoin thing was, yeah, like what do you do? Just go do it now. Like go, 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 go. That there's just something about someone having belief in you, but it being unflinching, totally committed to you and who you are as a person and what that can mean for you in your life. There's something special about that that I can't understate. and can never overappreciate.
It's all like never question you about it, like, which is
Not once. Not
it's
once.
amazing. And then just believes in you wholeheartedly and trusts you. I think there's a trust there. That's super important. I think that's maybe a lot of people don't put. I think people know trust is a big deal, but I think foundationally trust is like one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that was built over time as well. There's a phrase that trust is built in buckets and or built in drops and lost in buckets. And
Oh
I think
gosh.
well, it's true.
No, just put it in perspective to me. Like that's yeah.
Yeah, like I have a vivid memory of a friend. We were out at dinner and he mentioned something. He had a bad day and he's like, yeah, you know how on some days you just like take it out on the customer service person. And I was like, I hate you and I'll never trust you again. And I would say our relationship was just drop by drop, 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 drop. And there's a certain trust that's built and a certain understanding of like the person on the other end of it. And I would give her the same thing. So yes, it is foundational. And yes, it is built slowly.
Really quick about AI though. Where do you think AI is the most useful in our day-to-day life?
I'm not a Claude ambassador, but I wish I was. I lean on Claude Cowork, Claude Code for doing so many cool things that I wish I could have given my clients in the past, like creating apps for myself on ways that I can just track weekly processes. Or I've been creating a lot of apps for clients where it's like we set out to do these different things and I want to have a shared platform and vision place. It's tricky. I would say where it's most useful is turning one person into an army of 5, 10. That's probably the limitation that I could put on it, but there are people that can make it into 1,000. Not getting in the way of the creative brain, but getting in the way of the task oriented brain. I heard someone talk about how was it? It was like, oh yeah, programming. I was talking to a friend yesterday about programming and how AI factors into that. And there still needs to be someone that's in there to create the design, to understand what is the big thing that we're creating here. But underneath, you can use AI to create the pieces. Someone needs to understand the vision. It's kind of like an architect, but then you can have people or bots on the ground that are creating the building itself. And I would say it's a similar way that I like to think about it is, do I still have the creative vision? Am I still architecting the plan? And do I have AI just doing things that otherwise aren't really adding to my own best purpose in the world? Then that's where I look to use it.
I like to think of it as like accelerating things for people that were previously outsourced or just like now you're kind of like a jack of all trades where you can have this running at one time and then you can be building this on the side as well. And I hate to think that it's replacing jobs, but I also like to think of it as like helping other people that were maybe more ideas oriented and didn't have the like technical know-how to build something out, but now it gives them this like extra toolbox to accelerate their vision or ideas forward, which I only say that because personally that's what it's done for me. Um, and I feel like I couldn't build what I'm building a year ago or even 6 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, but definitely not a year ago. And so I just feel like it has emerged and progressed at a time where some of these people need it the most that are maybe more like founders or builders or but like non-technical builders or non-technical founders.
I wonder, so tying back to my corporate self versus my now self, it it feels like it's the time to be, whether it's solo or just a smaller team, because I feel like my own development has been absurd
Yeah.
over the past 2 years. And you can probably say the same over the past several months.
Yes, like definitely a month, but definitely 2 months. It's been insane.
There was differences in like both of our career paths, but when I was in corporate, I feel like I would be a shell of myself if I was still there. Not even just from the standpoint of like working in something that I wasn't as aligned with, but because there was such limited access to all the tools that are out there. And I feel like someone staying within the realm where they're so limited on what they have access to or like what they're using is like there very well could be an exponential shift between people that are really adopting these tools and becoming multitudes of themselves versus people that are within firms where they have limited resources and can only use certain things, not exploring what they can actually develop in that process, in a way getting left behind.
I feel like a lot of the building process was inherently gate kept, and that was kind of like building something or having to hire an engineer. Like it was really gate kept behind somebody who knew how to code and things like that. And I felt like, or I feel like once you open it up, where now everyone has access to these tools, I just feel like it's super powerful. And I just hate feeling like if I want to build something, I have to depend on somebody else.
It makes me think just the one like caveat, life is trade-offs. There's nothing's perfect. The other lane of that is, and I say this from the standpoint of like I'm guilty of this too, is it does assume that my idea is the right idea. So it is cool that you can go in and you can create and you have all of this autonomy, though the question becomes, is what you create and how you see something the way that most people are going to understand it. It depends on what you're trying to do. Are you just trying to create apps for clients, or are you trying to have this vision for something grander and you're just building the whole way of it? And there's the other lane of it of just having that collaboration is exciting and you never know what people can uncover that you can't see. Plus two, it's just nice to have that connection as well.
The cycle of like dopamine hits that you get from, I mean, me specifically, from when I have like an idea and then I see it come to life, it is like I've never done drugs, but it feels like a drug. But anyway, now that Claude exists, like, okay, I've had an idea that's been sitting in my notes app for a long time, and now I've had it render this HTML and I'm looking at it visually. Oh, this could be a thing. This could be the next, you know, whatever. And it feels so big in that moment, but then you have to reel yourself in a little bit. Like, how is this going to land for everybody else? Like, it's not going to be the same. So I don't know. I just feel like it's a kind of an addictive drug.
It's tie it back to what we were talking about earlier with content and how if someone's stuck and they don't know what to do, what should they do? And the answer is just do. If you're starting, like for example, I'm still very much getting used to what I can have these tools do for me. And agree that the first time it built something for me, I was like, what is this? This is the coolest thing ever. And then I realized there's like all these flaws with it. So it's one of those things that you you try, you start, you go, but you tinker.
Let's talk about your career pivot. You said you just heard about, like, in that moment, you just heard about this business, and then you're like, this is what I want to do, essentially. But tell me more about that.
I found Bitcoin when I was in a search for purpose. I was working in wealth management, had a lot of great things going for me, but there was one thing that was really, there were some other things that I wasn't thrilled about, but the one thing that really made me want to change is that I wasn't going home to learn more about what I was doing. I tried, just wasn't happening. And yeah, there was a high financial ceiling, but the personal ceiling quite low. And I'm trying to find, what am I going to do with my life? Lo and behold, I find Bitcoin. That becomes my thing. There's obviously a lot of good growth there, but like that becomes the thing that I'm going to do. In the process of that mission to work in Bitcoin, I'm all over the place, networking, going to events, and I find myself at this coffee and cold plunge event where I meet a guy and we start to talk about Bitcoin first. He has some interest. He's not as deep down the rabbit hole as I was, but he was intrigued. And then we started to talk about speaking. Speaking was something that had been a piece of my life since I was 8 years old. Dad threw me up on stage in front of the entire Pop Warner football banquet, 4 to 500 people, 30 minutes notice, and I did quite well. At least that's what everyone told me. And what that did was it formed this belief that I was a good speaker, which what that really did for me was it made me less resistant to raise my hand, which just led me to really pouring a lot of intention into that. But it was always just to support a career that I had going on. So this day I'm meeting and I'm talking with this man and talking about Bitcoin, and then we're talking about speaking, and I'm telling him about all the people that I'm helping and the time I'm investing in it. And he's like, "Hey, have you ever considered coaching?" I have a friend that is considering investing in a coach, and they're going to charge him 3 grand a month. I didn't know that you could charge for speaking, communication, presentation advice. I had no idea that you could work your way up to that sort of a level. And it was the marrying of all the things that I wanted to do. It was an ability for me to still kind of have that relationship like I did in the advising days, but it was something that I was going home to learn about. Light bulb moment for me. Oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to do. And then, okay, I got to figure out what that actually means. So that's how it came about. And it's been my obsession ever since.
How long were you at your previous role until you made the full leap into speaker coach?
Interesting. I had a long transition out. When I told my team, they actually let me stay on part time for 10
Oh, I
months.
remember that. Okay.
Yeah. And that was huge because I told them thinking I might get fired that day. And
Oh.
if I would have, I don't know if I would still be here. So huge kudos to them. I'm still great friends with them. They're still people I love. But till the day that I actually separated, it was about 7 years.
And where did you need to be in order to make the full separation? Like what had to happen for you? Like I had X amount of clients or like was it just like purely financial?
I told them on February 1st, 2024 that I was going to be leaving, ready to be separated that day. I thought I was ready. I wasn't really, but I thought I was. I had like figured out the financial runway, and yeah, the day I fully separated was the day Miles was born. That was the day, December 6th, December 6th. So that was the day that I fully separated.
Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Let's do this again sometime
Sure.
in
Cool.
LA.
In LA.
We are
Yeah.
in Vegas.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.